So let's look at the big picture now with our US analyst Michael Ware, who spent a fair bit of time in the Middle East, particularly in the 2006 war in Lebanon. Michael, all the debate at the moment is what Israel's response is going to be. It seems as though nuclear sites are off limits, so oil is perhaps an option, although we saw that with the spike in oil prices overnight. What do you think its response is going to be?
Well, that is a terrific question because, honestly, none of us know. And I think at this point, the Israelis themselves haven't quite calibrated what they would like their retaliation to be. Now, in the
not saying that publicly.
When Iran...
They've probably got an idea, just not saying publicly,
I mean, look, there's a lot of hawks in the Israeli cabinet and military who'd like to go all out. But, you know, ultimately that is unrealistic because, look, there is an argument that after the Iranians launched missiles and drones in April, that the Israelis did not hit back hard enough. So there's a movement building now within the Israeli security apparatus to say, well, we didn't hit back hard enough last time. Let's really give it to them this time. Now, what's been most effective in the past against Iran has been the longer-range covert activities, getting malware into their nuclear facilities, assassinating key scientists and generals. But those things take years often in the planning. And right now, security in Iran is bound up tight because everyone's looking over their shoulder. So the likelihood of a successful covert operation right now would appear to be slim. So we might be looking at more kinetic action. And there, as you say, we turn to Iran's vulnerabilities from the air. One, we know that their air defenses are not as sophisticated and high-tech as the Iranians would like them to believe. But the problem is the targets. What does Israel target? Now, for example, the nuclear sites, the Americans have already said are out of bounds. And quite frankly, they're buried so deep in mountains, you could bomb them till the cows come home, and I think you'd be unlikely to destroy them. So what we're looking at is, as you said, things like infrastructure. Most potently, it's oil infrastructure and it's oil reserves. Now, they could very successfully get in and strike Iranians' oil facilities. But, as you say, that will shoot oil prices around the world through the roof. We've already seen that now as the markets are already nervous about that. What I would argue is that perhaps an ally like Saudi Arabia or other members of the oil-producing nations of OPEC could increase production to make up for what Iran would no longer be able to supply.
So here's an interesting point that I think has emerged this week, Michael. Keen to get your thoughts on it. And of course, those who might not be aware, Iran is kind of, the puppet master when it comes to a whole bunch of different places in the Middle East. It pulls the strings with Hezbollah and Hamas, etc. But over the past week, have we seen that maybe Iran's not as powerful as we think it is when it threw all of its might behind those ballistic missiles, and in the end, there was hardly any effect?
Well, yeah, there is a sense among some that perhaps Iran is more of a paper tiger than people suspected. Yet, on the other hand, there's also a school of thought that Iran has yet to really unveil its true capabilities. Now, remember, Iran is a regional superpower. So is Israel. And there's a balance of power in the region through the threat of deterrence. Don't attack us or we'll attack you worse. And that sort of kept things in check. And so the Iranians have always used what they call their axis of resistance, these Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Gaza and in Yemen as their front foot defense. So it's really challenging for Israel to strike deep into Iran poses its own real challenges, and for Iran to strike properly into Israel poses its own real dilemmas. So none of this is easy for either side.
So who comes to Iran's aid?
Maybe shifting.
Yeah, just a final one here. Does Russia get involved here? Who comes to Iran's aid if it's well and truly on the back foot?
Well, no one's actually going to show up with boots on the ground. And certainly the Americans don't want to be putting boots on the ground, for example, on Israel's side. There's no one who wants to do that. But we do know that Iran has very close military and technological ties with Russia. In fact, it's Iran who's been teaching Russia how to build drones, suicidal drones, and the factories by which to manufacture them. They also have very close ties with the Chinese military and technology sector, and also with North Korea. So they can draw upon some broader support. But mate, no one wants to see a ground. You're not going to see a ground war in Iran.
No.
We may see one in Lebanon.
And on it goes. I was just thinking what the fallback is if they're too far on the back foot and they don't have those nuclear weapons just yet. But there you go. It's probably going to be one of those that you mentioned. Well done, Michael. Thank you.